built up in our bodies. And these are some exercises that can help to release that. We'll start by tapping just in the inside of our elbow here. Tapping, some people might gently make a little fist and knock on the inside. Maybe you're closing your eyes or softening your gaze. You could stay here. Some people like to reach their arms up and do the knocking on the armpit as well. And our armpits hold some of that tension too. And we'll release and go to the other side. So tapping or knocking on the inside of the elbow. And it shouldn't hurt. It should be just enough to feel maybe your muscles loosening. And if you want to hold there, you can, or if you want to try tapping on the armpit to release some of the tension, some of the negative energies that we hold in the armpit. Can't guarantee that your armpits will smell better, but maybe will feel better. And release. And we'll bring the tapping now to around the collarbone. Now there's lots of places that we can do this somatic tapping. Just focus on these for right now. I found that when I get into very anxious or very stressful situations, if I just quietly tap at my collarbone, it helps me to reconnect and refocus what's happening. It takes away some of that immediate energy. All right, I've released. Step the legs just a little bit wider. And we're going to do some releasing of the hips, allowing our arms to, our fists, gentle fists, arms are loose, and we'll just kind of swing them back and forth, hitting the backs of our hips and the fronts of our hips. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Part of this is just the feeling of loosening the lower back. So swinging and knocking, feeling the looseness in the lower back and the hips beginning to develop. You could continue doing this for a long time, but we'll come to standing position. Bring the feet closer together. We're going to hinge at the hips and slowly, knees are gently bent. Let the heart space guide us down into the forward fold. And for the moment, until we get comfortable with it, maybe we're at the shins, we're at a block. And if you're feeling comfortable here, I'm going to tap the backs of my knees, which is another place of negatively stored energies. So we have the benefit of an inversion. Our head reaching down toward the mat and also tapping the backs of our knees. All right, and release. Allow those hands to fall down to the toes. Shake the head out, shake the neck out, shake the shoulders out. And we'll slowly come up to standing vertebrae by vertebrae, feeling them stack. Now, before we get going, if you have blocks that you would like to use for this, we're going to hold our poses for a little bit longer than we normally do. And I actually have a timer here to make sure that we are in. So if you want to grab some of your gear, some of your things, here we go. Okay. So from our standing position, I'm going to step forward into triangle. So I'm going to let my left foot, we're going to do left foot first. My right leg is back into our triangle. So this is where we're going to start. Reaching our arms out, really stretching our heart space. Inhaling and exhaling, feeling the fingers pull opposite directions. And now inhale, reaching the left fingertips out over the left toes, hinging at the left hip. We'll dive down. Now this is where a block can come in handy. So we're in our triangle. And maybe I have a block down here. Right fingertips are reaching up toward the ceiling. Left hand is pressing into the block, into your shin, or onto the mat. Breathe here slowly. Calmly. We'll probably get about 3 breaths in. maybe more. We're going to shift from our triangle pose. So I'm going to come back up just a little ways. I'm going to step my front foot forward just a bit so that we come into warrior two. Adjusting your legs as needed. Same thing, holding those shoulders where they are. Check that the front knee is over the ankle. And again, we'll be here for about 3 breaths. Holding a little longer than we normally do. This yin practice is helping us become aware of our bodies, aware of our emotions, aware of our surroundings. If your legs become tired, you can always straighten that front leg and come back in. If your arms become tired, lower them down and bring them back up. I'm going to shift now to bring our hands to frame our front foot. So again, if you need the blocks, you can always have the blocks at a lower level or whatever level works for you. But we'll windmill the hands down to frame the front foot. And then straightening our back leg, lower the hip. Front knee is still over our front foot. We're not way over the toes. We'll stay here for a moment. Again, you can be using the block to see if we can open up that heart space a little bit more. Letting love shine out of the heart space, out of the throat chakra, the truth, what you need. And then we're going to shift back into a 3-legged down dog for just a moment. So pressing my hands into the mat, sliding my left leg back, and let the left leg rise up, whatever is comfortable. Now, most yin yoga, you hold our poses a little bit longer, but this is our first one of the week. I'm going a little bit slower. Actually, I guess I'm going less slow. Inhale, raise that heel up just a little bit more. And then exhale, bringing both feet together into a down dog. Our first down dog, if you'd like to pedal out your feet, walk your dog, as they say. Really pressing through the palms to the fingers, to the tops of the shoulders. Maybe breathing, imagine breathing into the backs of the knees. And we'll come into a puppy pose. So from here, I'm going to transition onto the knees, slowly bringing the knees down. And then reaching my arms out, my chin, my forehead, or my heart space comes to the mat. I'm really stretching those fingertips away from the hips away from the torso. If you need to, you can always place the blanket under the knees if that is uncomfortable. You can always place a block under the forehead if that will make you feel better. Just be careful with the lower neck. Maybe start to wiggle yourself back. And we'll do the other side. So I'm going to come through, curl my back toes, send my hips up into a downward dog. And I'll slowly walk up this first time, foot by foot, bring my feet between the hands into my nice forward fold, which is kind of where we started today. If you feel like you want to do some more tapping, you can. Or just take a moment in this inversion. Breathe. To let the stress rip away from your head. Roll away. You're done with that stress. You're done with that anxiety. And pressing through all four corners of the feet, slowly rising up again, vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll do the other side. So from here, my standing position, I'm in my Tadasana. Again, maybe opening up that chest more than you did last time. Maybe we can feel the shoulders pulling away from the ears. Sometimes when we get stressed, we do this. What if we tried to do the opposite? Stand proud of who you are. And we'll step out. So this time my right foot will be forward. We're going to step out into that triangle. You can keep your hands on the hips for a moment. But same thing, standing proud, arms out to the side. And again, if you'd like to use a block, you can always use a block to support you, but we're going to reach your fingertips out and exhale, hinging at the hips, diving down to a block or to an ankle. I'm going to grab my block. And just taking some time here. Left fingertips reaching up toward the ceiling. And especially in yin, using blocks to support our practice is great. Don't feel it is a weakness. It took me a long time to cut over that. Okay, we'll bring, moving the block to the side, bringing the body up. I'm going to step my front foot in and out just a little bit more. That's probably more dramatic than it needs to be. But we're just going to come into a warrior two. Tuck your knees, now coming in, keeping the knee over the foot. Tuck that back foot as well. Are the feet in some kind of an alignment here? Arms are out. Feel the pull. Fingertips other directions. Pinky back, opening up that heart space. When we'll windmill our hands down to frame that front foot. So coming down here, we'll be in that high lunge. And again, use a block if you would like to use a block. Maybe moving that back foot out a little bit more. Breathing in and try not to collapse in. See if we can keep that heart space open. If you need to bring the back knee down, bring the back knee down. Do what is going to support you and make you feel good. Okay, we're going to transition into that three-legged down dog again. So my hands framing the mat, curling that back toe. I'm going to bend my right leg up. Hold it here. Just try to keep the hips balanced. You don't have to go very far. Pressing through the fingers and the palms. Take one more breath here. And let that right foot come down to meet the left and find a moment of stillness in our down dog before we move on to puppy. Your next exhale, slowly lower the knees down and we'll come back into that puppy posture again. So the knees are here, hips are high. So I'm shifting my hips so that my belly button is also kind of trying to aim toward my thighs. Reaching those palms out, forehead to the mat or to a block. If you are having trouble, you can always try a block in front of you or two blocks. This provides a little different stretch. It supports the arms a little bit more. But of course, never go into pain. If this doesn't feel good, back out of it. We'll still slowly start to release, coming through, coming out on our exhale, bending our weight back a little bit. I'm going to roll back onto my toes. So in case you can't see it, my toes are curled here. My heels are up by my hips, and I'm going to send my weight back so that I'm on my feet. And maybe it feels good to rock back and forth, but it's kind of a way to wake up the feet and the ankles, release any tension that we might be holding there. But certainly do just what feels good. All right, this is going to help us to transition into our malasana. So if you've done my practice before, you know I love malasana. So from here, just stepping my feet out a bit, I'm going to grab my block and I'm going to use my block to sit on this time. Toes go out to the sides, heels are just at the hip crease, so it's not super wide, but see what feels good for you. And I'm going to lower down and sit on my block. And maybe you make your block, there are different heights of the block. And once you've sat on the block, and it's okay if you normally don't ever use a block, we're doing a little yin practice here. So I have my elbows worked in just on the inside of the knees, palms coming together at my heart space. But you could also try hands. I'm going to move forward a little bit here. You could also try hands moving forward onto the block in front of you, another block, or onto the mat in front of you. Either case, breathing here, what feels good, maybe play around with it. Try different parts. Find that with each breath, your spine is getting longer. Doesn't mean it has to be going straight up, but your spine is getting longer. And on each exhale, you're feeling your sits bones or the bottom of your tailbone become heavy, become more connected. And our next little set here will involve legs up the wall, but I will show you a variety of ways that we can get the inversion. Okay, so slowly moving from our position here, I'm going to rock forward and take the block out, rock the block out from under me, and move over to my closest wall. If you don't have the wall, I'll just show you this really quickly. You can grab belt, and when you lay back, press the feet into your belt and hold it here. So that is an option if you don't have a wall nearby. You can also place a block under your hips close to the wall. And I think I have too much furniture in the way, but one of the ways we can support the back or just go straight in. We're going to keep our legs up the wall or up with using our belt, but have an inversion with our legs above the head. And you can bring the hands to the sides. If you need to, I'm going to get a little closer here. If you need to, you can always bring the feet down if that's just not feeling very good. You can keep the knees gently bent. They don't have to be straight. And you could even do some flexing and pointing here, arms to the side, or maybe hand to heart and to belly. And while we're in this posture, I invite you to start to think about what intention you might want to write today. We'll do that toward the end of our practice, but it's never too early to start thinking about that intention. We'll take one more deep breath here, inhaling and exhale, slowly starting to come out. If you're using your belt, you can just bend the knees. You could even bend the knees at the wall. Maybe at the wall, you'll need to press against the wall to release the block if you use one. I'm going to put my block back in the center of my mat, and I'm going to return to the center of my mat. Okay, so we'll come back a little bit away from the wall. If you're using your belt, stretching your legs out, we're going to do a little forward fold here. Okay, so legs are out, inhale, arms up overhead, hinging at the hips, exhale, reaching forward. And of course, you can always have that block by your shins, keeping the spine nice and tall. Let's try not to slump here. Keeping that heart space open, almost like it is a flashlight. And we want to shine light out against the wall, against whatever's in front of us. So we're not shining the light on our shins. We're shining it beyond the toes. And of course, if you can reach the toes, holding here. For each inhale, feel that spine really pulling the top of your head, pulling away from your hip bones. With each exhale, maybe a micro bend closer to your shins. Take one more deep inhale. Deepest of the day so far. And one more really deep exhale. Releasing our posture and coming back to sitting position. Okay. We're going to go into a shoulder stand from here, but we have options if you're not feeling good about a shoulder stand. But for those who want to come through, I'm going to bend my knees and have my feet on the mat, rolling down slowly as feels good to you. And we'll start by bringing the knees into the chest. Maybe just rocking back and forth. Get a little hug. And we'll start by stretching the legs up in front of us. Now, this is where we were before, but this time, and you can go back to that if that's what feels comfortable. We'll see if we can bring the knees over the forehead, arms to support the lower back, and then we stretch the toes up towards the ceiling. Protect your lower back and protect your neck as well. So weight should be taken on by the arms and not completely by the neck. The neck should be elongated. And of course, if this doesn't feel good, you can just keep the knees by the forehead, or maybe just stay in your legs up the wall posture instead. You can hang out here if it would feel good to go into a plow and allow the legs to fall behind you. Feel free. We'll take about 3 to 5 more breaths here. Resetting our brains, our emotions. Take one more deep breath here and release. Coming down, and we're going to rock our way back up to seated. So if you want to rock a few times around the block, just kidding, rock, little massage, or just rock back up into a seated position. In our seated, we're going to come into a cobbler pose or a Baddha Konasana, feet together, and the feet can be, of course, in front, or they can be closer to your hips. If your knees are very stacked up, may I suggest you using a block, and you can allow the weight of the legs to fall into that block. And maybe today the block is on its highest, but if we do this regularly, maybe your block will come down lower. and lower, and then none at all. If that's your goal, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe we want to flap our butterfly wings here a little bit just to loosen those hips up. Get that spine nice and tall. And I'm actually going to use my block in front of me here. Inhale and exhale. I'm going to fold forward if this feels good. If this does not feel good for you, certainly just stay in our traditional cobbler's pose. It does become a little bit more intense. So maybe you aren't leaning forward today. That's okay. Maybe you won't ever lean forward. That's okay too. I'll take one more breath here. Flap the wings to get our legs moving again. Move the blocks if you were using them. And in one of our last postures, we're going to come into a Gomukhasana or cow face pose. So I'm going to bring my left heel to my right hip, bending the knees, and then stack my right knee on top. The right knee is on top of the left leg crosses over, and my right heel is next to my left hip. Of course, if this doesn't feel good, maybe this is as far as you can get. If you're not feeling it, don't do it. I'm going to hold on to my feet, inhale my spine nice and tall, and just staying here, my Gomukhasana. I'll take 3 to 5 breaths. And in that time, if you want to try leaning forward, you're welcome to. If you'd like to stay seated, slowly breathing. Remember that you are here now. You are present. You are awake. You are alive. While we're in this pose, why don't we take a moment to nod? So chin to chest, and then chin back up toward the ceiling as much as feels comfortable. Chin to chest, ceiling. And on your next exhale, we'll release and switch legs. Okay, so same thing, right heel comes to the left buttock, left foot crosses over, knees are stacked, my left heel is next to my right hip. If that doesn't feel good, remember you can just cross the legs in front of you, crisscross applesauce. Spine is long, shoulders are heavy. Maybe this time we'll bring chin to shoulders. Just going back and forth gently, don't crackle the neck. And on your next exhale, you can transition out and come back into our easy seat once again. Before you go into your Shavasana, which I encourage you to do, I want to take a moment to encourage you to write some intentions. So maybe your intentions are going to be something that you think about in your Shavasana and then you journal about it afterwards. I highly encourage you to just take a sheet of paper or a formal journal, it doesn't matter, but write down what are your intentions. And there is an app that's called Calm, which I think is wonderful. I'm not getting paid to say anything about this, but There are many apps out there on our phones that can help us through our anxious or frustrating times. Don't feel like you're alone. There are support systems, and sometimes they're in digital form. But Calm says that when you're going to write these intentions to try to get away from our anxiety, start by thinking about what you really want. Be clear about what you want. What do you really want to get out of this week, out of this perfect week of yoga, out of maybe this is just one day for you? What's the intention that you want to take through all of these lessons? The second is that whatever you state, you should focus on the positive. Focus on positive language. It's very easy for us to say things like, I will not eat all the ice cream again tonight. But what if we changed it to say, I will make delicious and healthy food choices for the rest of the day? Or I intend to embrace calm and peace in my daily life. These are all positive language intentions. Make sure it's something that's really simple, something that's to the point. It's not so complicated that you would never be able to finish it. And return to these intentions often. And that's why I'm encouraging you to journal about it. Write the intention or intentions down and then write why. Or maybe every day or after each one of our sessions, come back to that intention and write how you have gotten through it, or maybe just repeat the intention to yourself. And after that, when you keep repeating those intentions, your actions are going to start aligning with your words. So choose those words carefully. Again, I encourage you to find your way into a Shavasana in a quiet space for 10 minutes, breathing and thinking about those intentions. And then spend a little time journaling how those intentions will come to fruition over the course of the rest of the day, or our perfect week of yoga, or just in your life in general. I can't wait to see you in our next session. Namaste.